Welcome to the Livecast Conversations with. On this show, my guests and I explore the bumps and triumphs of their journey to extract the gems from their experiences, because success leaves clues, and today we turn those clues into billboards for you. I'm your host, Gene Bernier, founder of Peeled Back, speaker and co-active coach, guiding leaders to ruthlessly pursue a life worth living. Hey everybody, welcome to episode 110. In today's conversation, we're talking with Sanjay Padhiar, founder of IMA Consulting, a company that helps businesses grow through problem solving, finding new opportunities, and value creation for their clients. Sanjay initially struggled with self-limiting belief due to his weight, but his son inspired him to begin his weight loss journey, which ultimately led to his success in entrepreneurship. Let's tune in today while we hear about his inspiring story of determination, perseverance, and learn more about his work with his new investment, Peoplepreneur, as well. Sanjay, thank you so much for being on the show today.
You're welcome, and thank you so much for having me. The experience so far has been great.
Well, I know this has been a long overdue conversation. I think we met probably now a number of months ago, thanks to Colin Mitchell. So big shout out to him for connecting two people and two great Canadians here. So let's talk a little bit about your journey. My words cannot do, obviously, what you have experienced and that journey for your entrepreneurship and taking ownership of your life and being inspired by your son. Where does that all start for you?
I think it starts early. It starts when I was growing up, and growing up in a entrepreneurial household where my dad was a business owner. He had his own business, and just seeing him and how he ran his business, it made me want to grow up to be a businessman as well.
What was most family businesses? Were you part of the business growing up?
Sorry, can you repeat that?
Oh, sorry. I've said a lot of family businesses, the kids are involved in them at an early stage. Was that the case in your experience?
Yeah, absolutely. So as long as I could remember, my dad owned a business. And I remember by the time I was 13, I was on payroll and I was working at the gas station when I was 13. And it's funny because we're like 18 or 16 over that ages, but I was pumping gas at my dad's gas station probably even before 13. But 13 was when I was officially on the payroll. And that was one of the businesses. So the other businesses that he had, I was working there as well. There's a car wash business, a dry cleaning business, and all those places I worked there as well. Like I supported him. I ran the business while he was on vacation. So there were times where I was running the business for months. And at an early age too, I was pretty young still.
What did some of those early experiences give you as you were, I guess, in opportunities to run the businesses while your father was away?
Mm-hmm.
What sparked for you to go, oh, this is something I want for myself one day?
I think it was the flexibility. Now we call it like freedom and flexibility, right? Like a lot of entrepreneurs like us really cherish that flexibility, right? Like it's during the day right now and we're on a call together, and that it's tougher to do if you're not I mean, you don't have to be a business owner, but let's say you are working a corporate job. This is either done during a lunch hour or whatnot, and there's not too much room for flexibility. So what I really recall was, my dad woke up early. He was at the gas station early, but by the afternoon he would come home, have lunch, and then take a nap. And after his nap, he'd wake up, have some tea, and then he would go back to work till about 7, 8 o'clock or whatever it was. So the flexibility part, definitely. The other part would probably be money. So seeing that income, especially in the early days, It was really something that I associated being an entrepreneur with, right? So
Right.
if you're a dentist or a lawyer, whatever it is, that it didn't resonate with me that you would earn a lot. I thought in business you can earn a lot, like just growing
Right.
up. That's kind of the belief that I had.
Right. And then you went into the corporate space from there. What was that like going from being part of the family business, growing up in that, and then eventually going into that corporate world?
Yeah, so the reason why I went into the corporate world is that one of the businesses that my dad had was actually the last business that he had. That business failed, and as a result, after I had finished university, I was in university. I was helping my dad with the business, but after that business failed, it it coincided with me graduating, not
Hmm.
long after. So once I graduated, I always had that mentality of, okay, I'm going to do a business. I'm going to probably work with my dad for a bit, and then I'll launch my own business. So that was the plan. But stuff
Right.
doesn't always go according to plan. And what that essentially the domino effect of that business failing was me finding a job and finding a job in the corporate world. I still remember that conversation that I had with my parents and them saying, right now you should really find a job because it's, guaranteed income. You don't have to worry about running a business, whatnot. So that's what I did. I went out, found a job, and a corporate job is nice and cushy. At the time, this was over 11 years ago, the the salary was like, wow. I'm like, holy, I'm gonna make this much money. So I was really excited about it because
Yeah.
you've never made that much money before, right? Like going from like working at Canadian Tire, which is where I worked in the summers, or even factories, which I've worked as well, going from that type of income to now working in the corporate world, it it's a world of difference.
Right. When you think about that shift from going into that world of difference and taking yourself back there, like I almost hear like a recollection of some excitement making that jump into it, going, "Wow, look what I'm making." There's a sense of, oh, there's some safety, you said, and comfortability in taking those jobs, and especially in the times that we're in right now. I think people are also learning like that's not always the case. Like it feels safe, but a job can be as gone tomorrow
Mhm.
as running a business. So what did your younger self take from that journey from being part of like a family entrepreneurial business and going into now I'm in this corporate space? How was that an advantage for you? Or at least did you have a sense of like what was that advantage being from an entrepreneurial spirit coming into that corporate space?
So I think having done corporate, having also been let go from corporate jobs, restructuring. I was never fired, but restructured many times.
Yeah.
And what you come to realize is that you need to have a trust in your own abilities and your own
Hmm.
skills, as opposed to trusting that safety net. So
Right.
one of the examples that I love, one of the sayings that I kind of go by is the bird sitting on a branch doesn't have its trust in the branch. It has its trust in its own wings and its ability to fly. Right. So as a business owner, I feel that that's very true. In the corporate world, people are skilled and they can still get jobs, even in today's economic environment. They can still find a job.
Right.
They have to have the trust in their own abilities, and that's what I learned more so in my own entrepreneurship journey as opposed to
Okay.
in the earlier days me being young and watching my dad run a business,
Yeah.
this is something that I really learned and started to believe in when I pursued my own entrepreneurship journey.
When you start to believe in your own wings and not the branch, like that's a powerful
Mhm.
metaphor to share, and definitely something that hopefully I resonate with, and hopefully the listeners are going to resonate with as well. Is you have that choice. You could have rested on the branch, trusting in the branch, never knowing when or if it gives out. Or you could go, I'm sitting here for a little bit, but I trust in my wings to take me to wherever I need to go and how to get out of this situation because I have the skills needed to be everywhere I need to be.
Exactly. And that comes from having trusted the branch before and that
Mm,
branch breaking. And once that branch breaks, you realize that the next branch that I go to might also break. It might seem solid, it might seem
yeah.
great, sturdy, but you never know when a storm might come and that branch breaks and you're
Mm.
left out of a job.
Well, and I think that's as well, like there's something powerful about learning, having to learn the lesson that the branch breaks,
Absolutely.
right? And that in itself is a gateway, I think. Maybe I'm leading the witness here, but I feel like that's probably a bit of a gateway to learn how to trust those wings as well, because you sat on it going, oh, I'm good here. Well, if you're good there, are you going to be taking a risk and trying out those wings where you may fall and hit other branches, but when that branch falls, you then have to learn how to use those wings.
Exactly. And that's what entrepreneurship as well is like you're off your feet, right? And this is another analogy, right? Pretty much that you have to take that leap of faith.
Mm,
So you can be sitting on the branch all day and you can think that you have the strong enough wings to do it, but if you never leave that branch, you never leave your comfort zone, you're never going to find out if you have the ability to fly. So that's what I had to do last year when I quit my job and I trusted my wings to fly and pursue entrepreneurship fully.
yeah. Well, let's dive into trusting yourself to make that jump because that's not necessarily the easiest jump to make, especially if you're in a place that it's like there's comfort, there's safety, and there's certainties. You have a family as well, and go, hey, I'm
Yeah.
going to trust in myself to make this jump. And making that jump as well, I want to point to part of the intro is like your inspiration around your weight loss journey is like there's some uncomfortableness in both of those journeys. And what did you take from that? And were there correlations from going down that, both the weight loss journey and stepping into trusting your business acumen as well?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. And I think I have a great answer to that because what happened was my weight loss journey happened like well before I went solo entrepreneur. And one of the things that my coach helped me realize, and I want to, highlight the fact that my coach said this to me because I want to ensure that your audience understands the importance of a coach.
Right.
They help you realize things about yourself that you kind of know, but you have blinders to it because I think we're focused a lot of the times on the negatives and what we don't have and what we need to accomplish.
Right.
And what a coach does is just kind of reiterates your life back to you, right? So you would know you're a coach. So basically, what my coach said to me was, and my coach knew that I wanted to be an entrepreneur and go full time with it. And our coaching sessions were around that goal. And one of the things that she said to me when times were tough and I felt like the goal was still far out of reach, one of the things she said to me was, remember your weight loss journey and remember what you were able to accomplish when you decided that you were going to lose weight. Starts with the why, the discipline, and that reminder worked because it takes you to a time where you really believe in yourself and you're in that mindset of accomplishing that goal. So
Right.
entrepreneurship is funny because it's not like you can do something for 10 days and you have a client. I mean, you might have a lead, but
Yeah.
weight loss is different because I can eat really healthy for 10 days and I can lose 5 pounds. So that feedback and those results are actually quicker with weight loss than it is, you know, a bigger goal such as entrepreneurship.
Right. And I want to add into that a little bit. I think as well, like we talk about like weight loss, there are some instant, like especially at the start, there can be some like, oh, that felt great. Like you get that kind of that little dopamine rush and
Yeah.
everything. The initial little 5 pounds drops really fast if that's where you're working towards. But then you hit like the valley. And
Yeah.
just like in entrepreneurship, is like you get
Yeah.
excited. I got this idea. People are saying this is an incredible thing. Go for it. Those first few months are like this is great, and then oh oh no, I've got a lot more to go. Like there's a long path here, and the instant returns are stopping. And then
Yeah.
you have to shift into that place of going, do I trust what I'm putting into the efforts today are the right efforts to get me to where I need to be? I think
Yeah.
I hear that pull back to that trusting the branch or trusting your wings is like, well, if you can still see your goal and you know that the tasks that you're doing today were at least a little bit better than the way you were doing it the day before, can you trust in that? Can you trust in that in those valleys when it feels like you're trudging through a desert hoping you're going to find this magical oasis that is the end goal, the success of it all?
Mhm. So just to kind of highlight and reinforce that fact of what you're saying, you're absolutely right. What happened with me was when I decided to be a consultant, I landed a client after like 6 or 8 months. I had my first client, and I'm like, woohoo, I have a client. Awesome, right? Good. It was a side hustle still, so I'm still working corporate. I have my
Yeah.
client, making some side money, and things are good. And I know that that's not enough for me to leave my job. And I got into that valley that you talk about, right? Because that valley is like essentially like a plateau. So it's
Yeah.
like, great, I got a client, but now I've hit a plateau where I'm not getting any more clients. And you got to do some work to really get yourself out of that valley. It's not going to happen on its own.
No.
You have to put in the work. And I mean, I was putting in the work, but what I had to do is reflect on the work that I was putting in. So,
Mm.
like, measure your inputs, right? Like, what are you doing that is leading to this outcome? And you know what the outcome is? Like, I don't have an additional client, I don't have any leads coming in. So,
Yeah.
that's when I decided to invest in coaching again. And I've made a lot of self investments along the way. And I think that's helped out to get out of the value for sure. Um, but making those investments in yourself, because it changes. So a lot of the times they'll change the results. It's that
Mm.
whole cliche of, if you don't like the outcome, then change what you're doing. Like you
Yeah.
can't do the
100%.
same thing and expect a different outcome. So I was kind of doing the same thing and expecting a different outcome, which wasn't happening. So I really reflected and I asked for feedback. So at this point, like I'd been on LinkedIn for a while, had a good network, and I reflected and I also asked for feedback to people I trusted, and I said, "Hey, can you provide me some feedback? Can you provide me some advice? Right, I'm at a bit of a plateau with my business, and I need some help figuring out what I can do that will help me get out of this valley, as we call it." And
Right.
it worked.
What was it like? Asking for that reflection is a courageous step because you
Mhm.
can ask for it and get it, and then there's the question about what are you going to do about it once it lands. So what did you do about it when you got some of that reflective feedback?
You got to listen to it. you
Yeah.
you have to really process it, right? Like, you don't ask feedback from your neighbor if your neighbor's an engineer and you're trying to be a business person. So
Right.
you ask the right person the feedback. And what was critical was that I was asking people who are kind of ahead of me, right? I asked a few
Mm.
people who are consultants themselves,
Yeah.
and the feedback that they gave me, and I'll share it with your audience as well. The feedback, part of the feedback that they gave me was, what do you really want to focus on? What are you really good at? Because there's a difference between what you're really good at and what you want to do. And
Yes.
if
That's an
if
important
you're
piece
not
there.
exactly, so if you're not really good at what it is that you're trying to do, then it's hard to be successful.
Right.
So I took that feedback and I started to focus in more on what I was good at and start to communicate that, right? I had to put
Mm.
that out and share that with the world, with my audience, so that way they were aware of what I was really good at. And and what I wanted to help people with in my consulting business, like in the beginning, it was a lot about like marketing and even sales, which sales I've gotten a lot better at because I've done the work to acquire those skills and that knowledge.
Right.
But what I realized was I had like a decade worth of experience working for corporate, and none of those 10 years did I do any marketing. It was all like data analysis, operations, um, retail operations. There were elements in my experience that I was an expert at without realizing this.
Right.
So when I already knew that before I started consulting, that like these are my strengths. But when I took that feedback, when I was in that lull, I took the feedback and I went all in on those things. So that
Mm.
way people could trust in coming to me for those things. Whereas you
Right.
might find 100 other people with better marketing knowledge than me, so you might not trust me with your marketing, but you
Yeah.
can, sure as hell trust me with your data, for example.
Right. And understand the operations and so, like we talked about in the intro, solving problems. So
Yeah,
that in itself can be jarring. Be like, oh, I aspirationally, I want to be the guy that helps on the marketing side, and then people are pointing, going, you don't have any experience doing that. Like,
exactly.
why would you be hired for that? What is it that you like? How what was it like, kind of like letting go of that original aspiration and then building this new one around, going, okay, what are the skills? Like, where's that cross section of what I like doing, what I want to be doing, and what I don't have the skills for and shouldn't be doing, and coming to terms with that and finding like an excitement back around that cross section of what you're good at and what problems you solve because you're good at it.
Yeah, I think there's two parts to that because what I ultimately realized was that you have to surround yourself that you need a team essentially, right? Like you don't have to have people on staff, employees doing it. You just need
Right.
the right network. So with regards to marketing, I knew that there were people out there way better than me when it came to marketing and had skills that I didn't acquire for one reason or the other. So
Yeah.
I really looked for those type of people that could help me with areas where I wasn't as good as. Right. So
Right.
it allowed me to focus on what I was good at. And I started to look for and find people in areas of business that I wasn't as strong in. And that helped out tremendously.
Right. And now knowing that, does this give you an opportunity to be like more like intentional with it, more excited by it, more drawn to this than where you were when you first started with your idea?
Yeah, so it's different. What's interesting is that like now I have to play more of a leadership role because of that.
Mm,
The fact that
yeah,
I have like a team and I have people that essentially like I'm responsible for, and I have to take
right.
ownership of those things. So it's almost like I'm playing a different ball game now. Whereas when I was doing the side hustle and I had just started like a year ago, I was more in the business and I'm just doing the work. Now I'm working more on the business and I'm realizing that I have to become a better leader. Like I have to be
Mm,
better at leading, delegating, and helping people kind of understand the mission. Because a part of that is you essentially have to create the hype for it. If you
right.
don't create the hype for it, and it's just like, hey, IMA Consulting is going to be huge, as opposed
Yeah,
to, being like, let's grow IMA Consulting so that we can help 100 businesses. That's a different
right.
mission.
Yeah. And what is it for you? Kind of two questions. We'll start here. It's like now through this, has your idea or your definition of what leadership means or being a leader changed because of going through that experience?
Yeah, I think my learnings as a leader has changed significantly because I'm learning. Like I'm actually doing and learning. There's a big
Right.
difference between like reading quotes, watching YouTube clips, reading books. There's a big difference between doing just that and actually
Yeah.
having people to lead. Whereas like
Mm,
before, not so much. Like I was in roles where I had to lead projects and even team members, but it was different. So what what's different now really is the responsibility. Like you have people that rely on you, your clients and your employees or your team, and they're relying on you for leadership,
right.
direction, motivation, even, right? Like I've had a team member come up to me and be honest and be like, I'm going through something, I'm struggling with something happened in my life that I'm struggling with. I'm trying to deal with it right now. And it's it's much more aligned with my own personal journey and values of like helping people. So can
Right.
I not only lead people, but can I also help them with whatever stuff
Mm,
that they're going through? Because we
right.
can't expect people to, work a certain way or give a certain amount of effort if they're going through stuff, right? We
Right.
have to you almost have to put yourself in another person's shoe and say, what might be this person going through that might be causing them to, not perform at a certain level, right? So I think helping with other people's goals is really important.
Mm,
I think I can't remember who said it. He was like, I think it was Earl Nightingale or one of those folks who said, you want to become extremely successful, help other people achieve their goals,
yes.
right? So that's how I really look at it. If you look at it like a practical, pragmatic way of, how do I grow my business? It's
Yeah.
how can I help other people reach their goal? And I think
Yes.
that's what a lot of like sales is about is, discovering what people's goals are and then helping them achieve it. And
Yes.
then even your own personal goals. Like you have people that you're going to have to rely on. What are their goals? And can we also put their goals on the map, right? Like, so I make a point to ask how they're doing and how they're doing on their goals, like their personal goals. If they want to share with me, if I know about them, I'll remember and I'll ask,
Yeah.
how are things going with this? And there's no I welcome a 10-15 minute conversation on something about them, right? Like, how
Yes.
many times do you have a manager employee relationship where you you're not managing, you're just talking as if you were almost like friends, right? So I want to be able to have that type of conversation with my clients, employees, everyone, to just
Yes.
understand the personal. It's almost like you want to understand side of things.
Right. It's like what I hear from all this is like your definition of leadership is like see the human that you're leading, that's reporting to you, that you're engaging with. We'll take that step further, being like in business and leading business and all the things that you're working on through building your business is like you're the more you see the person and you get curious about them and their goals and helping, going, can my skills help them get there faster, you get more rewarded and you become able to do more of the work that you're doing, which is eventually, I think you drop the serving 100 companies. Like that's how you get that. That's how you do that there. Because at the end of the day, at the core of it all, we're dealing with people.
Yeah,
Everything that we do is dealing with people. And especially when you're in this, that being in service to, it's in service to humanity.
yeah. When there's when that element run into issues. I mean, when you say maybe the mission is not strong enough, or let's just talk about employees or any company, right? Like, if a CEO or an owner of a business is like complaining, venting, or talking about how his workers aren't performing or the business isn't performing, like, that's often a reflection of the leadership,
Yeah.
because either that mission isn't strong enough, that people don't really feel motivated by it, or they themselves have issues around belief or confidence
Oh,
or their own capabilities, right? Like, if you think that my company can do 10 million in revenue and I'm happy with that, then nothing is going to change, right?
yeah.
You're not going to innovate if you're content. It's really when you're not content and you want to grow your business, do you put forth more effort?
And I think like I hear within that as well though, like there's this that it comes back to that reflective component, right? Like that anybody that's out there pointing the finger going, you're the problem. Well, I love the fact that there's three more pointing right back at me. So for every one,
That's a
there's a
good.
3x that's a reflection on me. So if I'm saying someone's not working hard enough, someone's not living up to their best or their
Yeah.
expectations, 3x back to me.
And that's what extreme ownership is. The book by Jocko Willink, that's what it talks about. Essentially, all it talks about is
Yeah.
taking ownership of other people's actions. And it's really tough to do, but when you execute it, you when you execute extreme ownership, you do things differently.
Mm,
And that's what I
100%
find
agree.
myself doing.
Well, for me, I hear I love what Jocko has to say there, and the idea of ownership, trusting yourself, But that speaks as well to like that flexibility, that freedom. If you can take complete ownership of what's happening and to all the reflections that are coming back at you, there's nothing more freeing than go, I own that. I own what I just did, or I own how I said that, and I own the impact of it, and I'm going to learn, I'm going to grow from it, and I'm going to keep moving forward because of it, and for it, and through it. It's just like, nothing. Honestly, that's a place of calm eventually.
I think to know that your life is in your own control is calmness and peace.
Yeah.
Because just from my personal experience is when you don't feel that peace is when you're so focused on the external stuff,
Yes.
all the external crap that's going on. It's like, this is happening, time's moving too fast, all this, I wish I had more time. Like, all that is what creates unhappiness and havoc essentially in our lives. And extreme ownership is also taking ownership of your own life. Like, if you're not taking ownership of your own life and your own actions, then you can't, especially in business, you can't expect your business to succeed. Like, if you're personally struggling with your own mental health issues, there's only a certain level that you can get your business to
I think it
before.
transcends even your business. Is like all sections of your life because you are at the core of that life. And if you're out of balance somewhere, in my coaching practice, we use a thing called the wheel of life. It's 8 quadrants that you can rate 1 to 10 on. And I've always liked the idea is like it's it may never always be all sixes, all tens, and it's not supposed to necessarily always be balanced. But like if you're totally out of balance, if you've got a 10 in one section and zeros in another, your wheel is going to be spinning very lopsidedly and causing a lot of bumps and damages to your road that you're traveling on. And I think that shows up in all areas of your life. If there's a place that you're avoiding and a place that you're stuck in, or you feel like you're in those ones and zeros in a section of your life, be like, it's bleeding everywhere else. You're not going to make up for that zero by going all over indexing on another section.
Exactly. What happens then is you eventually burn out. That's what I think leads to a lot of burnout is who people, and myself included, just not spending enough time on the zeros and the ones and the twos
Yeah.
and threes, right? Because that ends up taking so much of your brain real estate, I like to call it, because things that we're going through take up space in our minds.
Yeah.
And if we don't address them and do something about them, they just continue to take up space and more space to the point where you either reach either reach like a bottom out point, or you do something that you might be very regretful for. Like, you might,
Right.
like, for example, like, I can take it out on a family member or a friend, even a client, or even like a team member, right? If you're struggling with something and you don't address it, these life throws these things at you, and one of those things might just hit you in the face, and you're just, at that point might explode and be like,
Yeah.
what the f, man? Like, what, right? So I think it's so important in business, especially, that we take control of our lives and our actions and reflect on the things that we need to improve, and essentially like
Yeah.
balance things out, right? Like, I'll give you a quick example. I was looking for more coaching and for myself, and what I ended up doing was I got some business coaching, and I'm doing the business coaching, and I'm learning things, but I realized that about 2 months in is what I really needed more help on and more coaching on was personal development, like more mindset stuff. Because when it
Yeah.
comes to business, like, I went to school for business, and it's essentially in my blood. So I think I do well in business. The only thing stopping me is my own mind, right? So how can I continuously get over those self-limiting beliefs? Because you just don't get rid of them forever. In the opening, you said I got over one of my self-limiting beliefs, and I got over one of the biggest ones. but it's still not over yet, because
Yeah.
you get to another level and you come across another nemesis, and you're like, okay, here's another level, another boss that I have to face and try to
Oh, I love.
overcome this
Yeah.
boss, right?
Yeah, it's another boss level, and you're right. Like those,
Mm-hmm.
I talk about saboteurs lots, um, and one of the ways that I've been able to use them in my own growth as well is like a similar ways. Like I've looked at them. It's like I always had this thing about like, oh, we'll cross that bridge when we get there. Is like a saying I say a lot. My kids probably like, I don't want to hear it anymore, Dad. We get it. But in front of that bridge is always a troll. And I
Mm-hmm.
used to think the troll was the limiting beliefs, the saboteur was like, oh, keeping me away from it. What I've now learned to make peace with is that troll is there to test me, to ensure that I'm ready to cross that bridge. It's almost like, hey, if you can get past me, the rest of this is easy sailing because all this is in you. If you're going to stop you here,
Mm-hmm.
you can't get to the other side. So being able to, like you say, defeat that boss to get to the next level is like it's an opportunity to test what you've learned, to test yourself and to step and lean into it because it's easy
Yeah.
to the easy thing run away, be like, oh, I'm telling myself I shouldn't be here, that's my saboteur, I'm going to get out of here. Well, that's not where growth is. And if you're looking for growth, you're looking for growth in your personal life, in your business life, and every other area of your life, the uncomfortable truth is that means you've got to lean in, and it's going to be uncomfortable, and you're going to look back on it fondly.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It, that troll that you like to call it, that self-limiting belief, or that thing that is holding you back, it's often between your ears, right? It's your
Yeah.
brain, because your brain is telling you, oh, you can't do that, that's not going to work, try something else. And that was me a lot of the time. Was I'd have an idea, I'd work on it, and then my brain's telling me this is not going to work, you should probably try something else. So I switch it
Yeah.
up and I say, okay, I'm going to try something new. And then you just keep trying things, but you never really complete them, because every time you see that troll, or that boss, as I like to call it,
Yeah.
you turn back, and instead of fighting it, you just you turn back. So
Yeah.
life is full of those bosses, those opportunities to level up. And what I like to do is treat those opportunities as a way for me to improve. Right?
Mm-hmm.
This is how I'm going to pass this level. So,
Yes.
for example, if you're stuck in traffic, and like myself, I hate traffic. In Toronto, traffic is horrible. And I don't drive much anymore because I don't have to do a commute. But when I do have to drive, sometimes you feel angry because of all the traffic and the drivers. But it's just an opportunity for me to practice like self-control and mindfulness.
Yeah.
So if I tell myself the guy in front of me is a stupid driver, like that's just more negativity on me. If
Yeah.
I just say, oh, maybe that guy's having a bad day, I'm just going to focus on myself. I'm going to listen
Yeah.
to music. I'm going to listen to a podcast, right? So everything is perception and the story that you tell yourself. So now when I have an opportunity to react a different way than I'm used to, because I've decided the old self beliefs are no longer me, and I don't
Yes.
get angry at stupid drivers anymore. Or it would take a lot of stupid drivers to get me angry. Like I look at these moments in lives that anger us, that hold us back, as an opportunity to overcome. And I
Yeah.
actually tell myself, if I'm being triggered by something, I say, here's an opportunity for me to like practice that thing, breathing, for example. So
Yes.
there's so many opportunities in life to just practice the whole self-development thing, because you can take in so much information. And it's the same with business as well. Like, I did business in college and university. I learned so much, but then I never really applied it until years after. And if you don't use it, you lose it. So
Yeah.
everything that you're learning has to have some sort of action or execution tied with it, right? So I think of it,
Exactly.
how can I do things differently?
Yeah. And from all that, if I bottom line that is like what I hear is each of these reactions that you have is an opportunity to practice differently, to like reprogram yourself, be like, this is who I want to be. Oh, here's the thing. This is how we're going to try it differently today. Give yourself the grace and the kindness to try differently again tomorrow.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You can really control, I don't want to say control the outcome, but you kind of do control the outcome, because sometimes the outcome just ends up being that you're angry or you're
Yeah.
grumpy. You end up having a bad day because of like one thing that happened. And once you realize that you can control the way that you react to things, that's when you start becoming more untouchable. Like, I
Yeah.
essentially, that's how I see it, is when, if I can say something to you, Gene, and you get really upset about it, like, I don't really feel like you're that untouchable, because somebody can easily impact you,
Yeah.
right? I think real, like, inner strength is when you don't let external factors impact you as much.
I agree 100%. And I'm looking up at the time. Remember at the start I said we were going to blow past the time? We blew past the time because it's been an incredible conversation, my friend. And I want to
I
respect your
agree.
time as well. So, as we come to kind of wrapping it up, let's do a little opportunity to tell people about your IMA Consulting, what you're doing, and how they can connect with you. And as well, down below in the show notes when you're listening or hearing this, we will have those links there too.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you for the opportunity to be able to, talk about my company and ask me some great questions. As far as what I'm doing and where people can reach me at, so the company that I started was IMA Consulting while I was still working corporate. I was gonna attend a networking event, and I had to come up with a name like the day before, and I just blanked out, and I'm like, what if I just said I'm a consultant? So that's literally what IMA stands for,
I love
is
how
just
that name
I
came up.
am a consultant. And if anybody asks me, I have a different answer to it because I was able to figure it out. But yeah, I'm just looking to grow the brand, the business, create more content. So right now I have a new website, imaconsulting.co, that we just put up there. And we're looking to create more content. So this podcast comes at a great time because, content is king, and we'll be able to use this podcast as content as well,
Yeah, for
and
sure.
continue to grow the team, because I want to help more people, and I need more people's help. So if your audience feel like you can help me in any way, or I can help you in any way, definitely reach out to me on LinkedIn, where I'm active a lot, and let's connect.
I love that. And as well, who's your ideal client? Like, how do how do business owners go? Oh, that's me. I should go work with Sanjay.
Yeah, my ideal client would be most likely in retail. So having a customer facing aspect to their business, and how I help them usually is through process improvement, change management, data, and usually the larger companies. So you have your
Right.
enterprise companies that need these types of services usually. But even though that's my ideal client, and that's where I can shine the most, I also love to help the small businesses. So I kind of look at it as, can I take from the large clients and serve my smaller clients? So I do have small business
Right.
clients as well that I help, and I really love helping business owners because that's why I started IMA Consulting. Was, when my dad's business failed, I thought, can I at time and become the person who would have saved my dad's business?
Mm,
So the person that I am today, the consultant that I am today, could I have gone back and saved his business? No one knows for sure, but
yeah,
at least I became that person who would have tried to.
right. Full circle there.
Yeah.
Thank you for sharing that last bit. And before I let you go, my last question is, what is your definition of trusting yourself?
I think it goes back to that analogy of the bird and the wings, because trusting in your own wings is ultimately what sets you free. Because if you don't have that trust, then you're just going to be confined to that space, to that branch, and you won't be able to reach that next goal. So trusting in myself, in my own abilities, and doing the work to
Mm,
maintain that, I think that's critical, because it's not a solution that I can read a book or take a course and I have that ability. It takes so much maintenance, especially in today's world, to have like inner peace and have the trust in yourself that everything will be okay.
yeah,
So I continue to do that work. And as long as I'm doing that, I have that trust in myself. It's when I stop doing that, when I take a break from it, that
yeah,
I start to lose a bit of that.
right. That's I love that definition and how you pulled the metaphor together is still trust in your wings, and to trust in your wings is a practice of flapping your
Yeah,
wings.
exactly.
Thank you.
If you don't use it, you
Yes.
lose it, right?
We'll bring it back down to an old trusted tale. But
Yeah.
yes, that is 100% correct. All right, Sanjay, thank you so much for being on this
You're
episode. I really appreciate it. And to everybody else, we'll be back next Wednesday with another exciting guest. Until then, I'm Gene, and this is Conversations with. We'll talk to you next week.